The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
And we are live for a special Indie Creator Spotlight powered by The Dorkening. And with us, as always, Patsy. How's it going, my friend?
That's going pretty well, Leo. Things are going great. You know, we get to continue our conversation that we had last night with one of the guests, one of the stars of the movie that we talked about.
I know. The movie was so great, we had to do 2 nights, and actually we're going to be doing a third next week, hopefully, fingers crossed. So who's our guest?
Well, our guest tonight, you might know her if you haven't seen No Fear, which you probably haven't because it hasn't come out yet. You might know her from Hereditary, FBI Most Wanted, or perhaps Law & Order SVU. We have Mallory Bechtel. Mallory, thank you for joining us this evening.
Hi, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome.
Well, we had a fantastic conversation last night with some of the folks from the movie. We had Adam and Jameson on last night. We talked all about, we talked not all about because we still have quite a few questions for you as well.
Nice.
Yeah. You know, not only are you an actress, you're super talented. You're also on Broadway and you're a singer. You have some songs on Spotify as well. It's crazy.
Thank you. Yeah, I started out, I still like kind of consider myself a singer first, I think, because I feel most confident about that. But yeah, the film stuff is more that's newer for me. I still feel like I'm sort of dipping my toes in it.
Well, I think you've got a promising career ahead of you based on what I've seen so far.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your role in No Fear. Would you like to give a synopsis of the movie?
Yeah, sure. So without giving too much away, No Fear kind of starts out like a classic horror film. You have a family that's moving into a new house, and we sort of quickly realize that there's a demonic force present. But where the twist comes in with No Fear is that we do a ritual that allows us to communicate with the demon, but each individual has a different sense. So one person can see the demon, another person can hear the demon, and another person can talk to the demon. So we have to work together with our special abilities in order to conquer the demon and save ourselves. So I play Jamie, who is part of this family. She's a young girl who doesn't really fit in with her peers and is dealing with the recent loss of her father. But she is sort of the one place she feels very confident in is ghost hunting. And she has her own YouTube channel, and she's very intent on proving that ghosts are real. And so when this happens to her family, it sort of presents this opportunity for her to kind of test her knowledge and come into herself.
Yeah, and you're sort of like the expert, you know, when they have the book. We don't want to give too much away, but, you know, you definitely guide the family in the right direction, and things definitely do take some turns. I do have the trailer. I'm going to play this real quick, and then we'll come back with some questions.
Nice place.
Thanks. You want to help us move some boxes?
Yeah, sure.
It's like it's written in code. Read incantation. Did you hear that? Scratching in the walls. I heard it in this house. Right behind you. What the hell is going on?
My Aunt Wendy found this book in the basement.
Look,
The ritual allows you to identify the demon using these abilities. 3 senses divided to 3 people. One person to see the demon, another person to hear the demon, and another to speak the demon's language. I have this terrible feeling like we're being watched.
I'm hearing things you guys can't.
I see something.
This whole house gives me the creeps.
Right there.
You can't possibly believe that any of this is real.
Of course I do.
Where's Jamie?
Videre. Audite. Dicere. Do it now!
Jamie.
I love it. No Fear comes out March 12th, so pretty soon. So definitely put that on your calendar. Definitely check it out. Phil was raving about it. He absolutely, I know we loved it as well, but yeah, he kept on chatting about it. So let's talk about where it was filmed, because somebody, I forgot who mentioned it, but they said the house was possibly haunted.
I think his name was Matt.
Matt. Yeah, he was in the chat. He was part of the he was on staff there. But yeah, did you have any experiences? What was filming there like?
Yeah, well, it was, filming there was fun because it's definitely a different experience being in a real house as opposed to being on a set. And I was just talking about this. Something is, I think, creepy about being in a house that people usually would be living in, because that was the case. There was a family that would normally live there, and they just moved out for the time that we shot the film. So it feels very much like you're kind of intruding on someone's life. Like there were photographs of grandchildren on the fridge, and we're like changing in their bedrooms, and they've got all their stuff there. So that sort of, I think, added to a creepier element to it. And then I guess we kind of joked maybe a little bit that the house was haunted, because I get headaches really easily, but I could have sworn it was like, I think me and another person, I can't remember now, but we were like kind of starting to not, this was before COVID, but we were starting to not feel so well towards the end of the shoot. And I remember I was pretty convinced that like just every time I walked into the house, I got a headache, but that's not terribly out of the normal for me.
Yeah. They also mentioned, oops, sorry, go ahead, Passy.
No, I just said it was very interesting.
Yeah.
That's all I was saying.
There was a lot of props we heard you guys grabbed from the basement. A lot of stuff that was like pretty creepy that was left there.
Yeah, not that the thing is, I didn't shoot in the basement, so I can't, what did they say? Maybe I'll remember.
He said there was like a box of stuff that he was like taken from room to room. I think Adam was saying that.
They said most of the stuff that was in the basement in the movie was already in the basement, like the mannequins and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
So how we talked a little bit about this yesterday with Adam and Jameson. Jameson not being very well versed whatsoever in horror movies. In fact, talking about how he at one point said he never wanted to make a horror movie in his entire life before Adam introduced him to some of the classics. So the question for you is, how well versed in horror were you prior to this, and did you take any cues from any other films that you had watched, or maybe the stuff you did in Hereditary, and kind of informed your performance on this?
Yeah, I feel like I was a casual fan of horror. I definitely wouldn't consider myself a horror buff. I wouldn't watch horror movies until I would guess the age of 13 was when I finally could go to sleep. But I after watching a horror movie, it was more of like, I loved going to the theaters with my friends though, and watching them. So I wouldn't think I'm very well versed in horror. I definitely, or not the classics. I've only seen the last Halloween, which I think kind of tells you where I stand with that. Yeah, now it's slipping my mind, but Jameson had me watch. Jamie was kind of a weird character because I wouldn't say she's necessarily like a horror film trope. So preparing for that, I was we were kind of looking at different characters from not horror films that served as inspiration for Jamie. Yeah, but I did the big thing we did to prepare was that Jameson showed me these Lovecraft demons or entities, I guess they're called, like Cthulhu, because that's what was big for me, is that that was that's like a realm that Jamie is very familiar with, that of course like I had never heard of. And so Jameson sent me videos about Cthulhu and like this weird mythology, and she wears a Cthulhu necklace and in the film, and that was more of like, okay, I'm understanding what kind of stuff Jamie is into, which is certainly very interesting for a young girl to be into, and especially with her demeanor, which is what I kind of like about her. So that was mainly what the prep work was just familiarizing myself with that.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, in your defense, you are not very old, and well, I'll put it this way: you graduated. I'm sorry, you were born 5 months after I graduated high school. So you are a little younger, maybe not been exposed to some of the classic stuff.
Yeah, it's true. I like to say that I'm a 90s kid. It gets 90s kids really angry because I barely made it in.
My brother does the same thing. He's September 1989. So yeah.
Says he's an 80s. That's funny.
Yeah, so he's I remember the 80s. Yeah. So yeah, now did he tell you who your character was named after?
Yes. Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis. I thought that was really cool.
Which is kind of surprising that he didn't have you watch the original Halloween. Although your character was definitely not a damsel in distress type character that she was. What I liked about your character and what I thought you brought to it was this almost overconfidence, where she was like, oh yeah, I do my ghost hunting and I'm into that. And like, she has a bit of an experience right before, the climactic battle in the film. And it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm definitely the best person here. And it's like, yeah, but you're a chiropractor, but should you really be performing heart surgery? Like, you might be the best qualified out of this group.
That's definitely such a teenage thing to think you know what's best. And yeah, she is definitely very self-possessed, despite her kind of quirkiness or more outsider qualities.
Because she almost deals with it like it's an abstract thing, like, oh yeah, this is what you do, like, and this is how you do it. And then it's like, I started the ritual without you guys, and like,
I do. I love.
Probably shouldn't have done that.
That is a fun moment.
It really is. And especially where you're saying, like, you're not playing off typical tropes. Like, usually somebody does it completely by accident. It's like, oh, like, I don't know if you got a chance to see the Evil Dead remake that came out in 2013, and the kid's like, oh, I accidentally read the book. It's like the book was buried, wrapped in barbed wire, and then wrapped again in, like some kind of like, like paper or something. So like you had to cut the barbed wire, then unwrap it, and then start reading. Like, there was no accident to it. Like, oh, I didn't mean to. Where your character's just like, no, I can handle this. I'm fine. I'm like 19. I can do whatever. Yeah.
Which is funny considering.
Now, did you? Yeah. Well, without getting too far into it.
Right.
Now, did you? To prepare for your character, did you watch any like the ghost hunting, like YouTube stuff, or just to kind of see how those folks are in those videos? Or
no, funnily enough, I wish. Oh, you know what? It just came to me. The film, it's called The Crow. Have you seen the film?
Yes.
Just totally, which is such like the whole circumstance surrounding the protagonist dying during that film really
Brandon Lee, yeah,
really creeped me out. But that was the big movie that Jameson wanted me to watch, because the young girl, although she's much younger than my character, was sort of, that was the main inspiration for Jamie. She's just got that kind of like punk, confident sort of
Shelley
attitude. The style is similar. I've never watched any of those paranormal shows. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like, well, all right. So then to kind of,
on that note, what I like about one more thing I like about Jamie is that, to me, the YouTuber part is that's such a Generation Z, like 21st century girl thing to do, and I think that is kind of how I approached it, but that's what is so interesting about it, is with this super niche thing, but it's the classic, like, I'm not receiving validation from my peers, so I'm gonna do it this way and try to make it on line here, which I've certainly have had a YouTube account for singing when growing up, but know so many girls who did that growing up too.
I think there's a lot of folks that do that, especially when you find out like, oh, some 8-year-old kid makes $4 million a month doing Minecraft or whatever. The girl's name is the character's name is Sarah, not Shelley. Shelley was the girlfriend. But so, what kind of stuff that you would typically watch? Did any of that stuff like inform your opinion? So if you haven't watched a lot of horror or paranormal stuff, but say you're watching a lot of sitcoms or dramas, where they're characters.
Yeah, it's kind of I had an ex-boyfriend who took a screenwriting class his freshman year of college, and I just always remember this, but his teacher the very first day said that taking the class was going to ruin watching movies for them, because they weren't going to be able to not think about what they had learned in class, or they're not going to be able to actually go in. And that is kind of how I feel a similar way about just acting in general. Once I started getting into film acting, and it's kind of a non-answer, but I do feel like I like everything I watch, but especially for girls my age, I think, or people who are playing characters that I would think I would be right for. I am kind of always tuning into what they're doing and taking note and learning from that. So I would say that other works are like always kind of informing what I'm doing.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what drew you to the role?
Well, I really, first and foremost, I really loved the plot of the horror film, just because I think what it does is it takes that really classic trope of there's a demon in the house and kind of spins it a little with this new element of, you can't experience, you don't have that moment where everyone is experiencing the force for the first time together, that sort of, huddling in the corner, like beholding it. It's this, I really liked that, that we only have access to one part of it. I thought that was really neat. I really liked that. I had never heard of that before. So I think that's what really drew me to the project. And then Jamie, I feel like I've complimented her a lot now, but I just thought she was such a neat character and not really someone that you see a lot as a lead. You know, she's a bit quirky, and you know, she's interested in very not typical things, and I liked that, and I certainly hadn't. And she certainly goes on a journey without giving stuff away, and that was something that she digs into realms that I had never done in the acting world. So that was definitely something exciting, something very scary, that I was certainly nervous for, but I liked that drew me, that I would be able to do that. I'd never done stuff like that before.
Now, with this, you know, with Jameson showing you all the different, like, the Cthulhu mythos and the Lovecraft stuff like that, is that something that, you know, you found yourself like, oh, this is really interesting, I want to search out some more of this stuff? Or was it something just like, all right, this is good prep for this film, but I'm not totally interested in it?
Definitely a variation of the latter, because really, like, it creeps me out. I like it. It made me feel, it was unsettling. So, you know, I did the bare minimum. But yeah, certainly not something that I would be interested in. But I was kind of, I feel like I was surprised that I had never come across it before, because I'm a YouTube addict, and I feel like I've found myself in weird corners a lot, but I had not frequented that corner. Perhaps I had, and I got creeped out and left a while
It's
ago.
entirely possible. The mythos it spawned lots and lots of other people who have, you know, created things and done it. Just don't Google the name of Lovecraft's cat. Don't do that.
I won't.
I'm sure someone could tell you, but it kind of delves into his very racist, very, very racist view of the world. So, you know, it's funny that you were able to, you know, really give the type of performance that you did, not having as much of an influence from, you know, like horror films and stuff like that. So I think that's really a testament to, you know, how good of an actor you are, because you pulled this off really convincingly. Like, you know, a lot of times we've asked folks, like, you know, what kind of things did you, you know, watch or read or, you know, delve into in order to, you know, kind of help form your character or create your character. Like, oh, you know, I watched this and I did that, you know. So it's interesting that, you know, you're like, well, I've only seen one Halloween, and, you know, I haven't, you know, really watched a ton of horror, which is, it's interesting because I think that helps you take a fresh look at this character, especially like you were saying, like, this isn't the common trope, like, oh no, we're all trapped in here and, you know, the monster's doing these crazy things. And it's not, you know, again, one of those typical horror movies where it's like the monster spends most of its time, like, you know, banging on windows or knocking books off of bookshelves. Right. It's like, why are you being a jerk? If you're here to kill everybody, just do it. And I thought that was
right into it.
Yeah, I thought you did a really good job, and like all the different actors complemented each other very, very well, because you didn't have those stereotypical characters like, well, this couldn't possibly be happening. Well, what did you just see? Well, there's got to be an explanation for it. Yeah, like, I mean, there's a little bit of that, and you kind of build up to it. Like, how'd you get locked in the closet? There's no lock on this door.
Yeah, right.
So when you took this job, when you took this, you know, I don't even want to call it like a job, because, you know, if you enjoy what you do, it's not work.
True.
Like, what other type of prep did you have to do in order to kind of get into this? Because Adam was saying it was very, very cold, and like that leather jacket that Don gives to your brother's character, or your character's brother. He said that was the only jacket he had, and he was very cold. So was there like something that you had to adjust to?
What's funny about that is I wore Adam's jacket in the film too. I wear one jacket most of the film, and it's this kind of hoodie with this army green over it, and they just liked it. It's way oversized on me, but they just liked it and they felt like it was the right vibe. But it was Adam's jacket. Weirdly enough, I didn't know that Jack had his other jacket. Yeah, I mean, I think like, well, just in terms of like basic prep, I think what was important for this film in particular, because there's so many scenes where it's just us, it's the four of us, the family. We were kind of in it together from the beginning, and we had a read through like I think of just a few days before we started filming. And so just in basic terms of prep, like getting to do that, getting to meet everybody before we started and kind of like build relationships with them was very helpful. And then just we also all drove over together. We all lived in New York. So we would get picked up one by one and we would all come home together at the end of the night. And, you know, we didn't have any trailers or anything. We all hung out in the same room if we weren't being used. And so I think what that did was it made us all feel really close and kind of get to that place where, you know, we know each other well, and we can hopefully make this family or this group of people kind of realistic. Yeah, and the house was cold. That is true. I just would kind of wear my jacket inside.
I think that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. We also shot at night. They were very intent on us feeling like it was nighttime while the scary stuff was happening, as opposed to blacking out the windows, which I think just made us all like a little loopy. Which is good ultimately.
Well, there's a quote. I don't know how familiar you are with the Calvin and Hobbes comic strip, but there's a quote
vaguely
from one of the strips where Calvin says, "I think nighttime is dark so we can imagine our fears with less distraction." So I think that definitely helped the mood, especially if the house was already creepy. You're talking about creepy subject matter. And then you're shooting it at night while it's cold. And when you're cold, you know, it is all these different environmental things kind of affecting you. And I think that was a good choice. You know, I think it definitely helped everybody's performance. And like you're saying, you know, everybody kind of hung out and, you know, was, you know, I think that enhanced the familial bond that your characters had.
Yeah, for sure. And I loved that cast. We all still have, oh, I'm reading that comment. We all still have a group chat and we keep up, and that was like the best part was, and that was my favorite part of shooting, was anytime that all four of us were together, just because it was fun.
I think that works out.
Yeah.
I know we're running on time. We're talking about No Fear, which comes out March 12th. So just in a couple days, we urge you definitely check it out. We absolutely loved it as well. So we just want to touch a little bit on, we were talking earlier about your music career. You're also on Broadway. I saw you did Legally Blonde, the musical.
Yeah, that was my senior high school show.
Okay. Where do you see where do you see your career going? I know you said you want to focus more on music, and what do you have in the works right now?
Oh, well, I don't really have a music career per se, but I definitely love musical theater, and that's what I grew up doing. But it's really, I mean, doing anything would be great. Theater specifically, film is like slowly coming back now, but it is very weird right now with the pandemic. So honestly, it's usually I want to do, when it comes to theater versus film, I want to do whatever I'm not doing. So by the end of No Fear, I was like, oh, I'm ready to get back on the stage. And I was supposed to do Bye Bye Birdie at the Kennedy Center, and then the pandemic hit. So as far as film and TV goes, I would love to do like comedy. Now that I've not that I have nothing against horror. I love doing it, but I would love to do kind of something different within that realm still. And comedy is something that I feel like is something I'm not very good at. So I would love to get an opportunity to do that. But right now I'm just going to school online. I didn't go to school. I moved to New York right when I graduated, and I didn't think I would go to college. So that's different and new and fun. So it's all up in the air right now.
Now on Law and Order, I think you're Stabler's daughter, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so he just got his own show coming out.
So, yeah.
So maybe maybe talk to your agent and see if he can get in there.
Oh yeah, I'll hit him up.
Yes.
What's funny is I think we were only in one scene together, so that was a very, very brief interaction.
But still, if they want to be consistent, especially on a cop show,
exactly. I mean, canon is key, and it's what is it? It's something about mobsters. It's Law and Order, Organized Crime. That's it.
Yes.
It's yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so I know we're gonna close things up here. Where do you like people interacting with you, Mallory?
Probably my YouTube or Instagram. My Instagram handle is malpow43, and then my YouTube is just my name, Mallory Bechtel. That's really it. Those are my 2 platforms.
Sounds good. So I have that information show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. And make sure you check out No Fear, March 12th. And Patsy.
Yeah, you can find me every Thursday with my wife Ashes on Throwdown Thursday. There it is right back there. We do all kinds of different character discussions. We do character breakdowns the way some folks do movie breakdowns. You can also find me on, actually you can find both of us again on the Loudest Sports Show every Friday. Make sure you head over to the Loudest Sports Show Facebook group right now, because we are running a contest for an autographed Bill Belichick helmet. Here it is right here. And we are trying to raise as much money as possible for the Strong-Willed Sports and Memorabilia Group, because they are doing the Pan Mass Challenge, the 193-mile bike ride, and we are raising money to help them fight pediatric cancer. So if you want to help fight pediatric cancer, or you want to take a shot at winning that and help fight pediatric cancer at the same time, head on over to the group. We're going to be running that for another week or so, and that's what we're doing. So try and help us fight pediatric cancer.
Awesome. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but more importantly, follow these awesome people here. Check out No Fear. And I run a little thing called the Dorkening Podcast Network. We have over 30 shows on the network. So head on over to thedorkening.com to find out more information. And with that, I want to thank everybody for watching. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.